My deep appreciation of theater history was instilled in me by Tom Empey, a college mentor to me and hundreds of others. While teaching Greek theater terms, he would grab the fabric of his slacks and say, "You see these pants? Euripides Eumenides," making light of content that could be considered rather dry and stuffy while still maintaining respect for the art, which is what I want to do with this podcast. For each episode, I invite a guest from the many paths my theater career has taken me down. I give my guest no idea what we'll be talking about, but they know we're going to find an outrageous story about theater history and perhaps get a better understanding about why we're still doing it after all these years. So welcome to Euripides Eumenides, and I am your host, Aaron Odom.
Apocalypse, apocalypse, I said, why you wanna show up now? Just when I thought my life was getting good. I'll give you one more chance. Walk on out of the door, yeah. Get your ass to getting where the getting is good.
Good morrow, Eumenidites. This is Aaron Odom from Trident Theater, bringing you another episode of Euripides Eumenides, a theater history podcast. I'm just going to go ahead and get right into the episode today. It's kind of a longer one, but I'm really excited to bring it to you. I'm going to go ahead and skip over all the countdown stuff to episode 100 because, well, here we are at episode 99. 100 is next episode. I'm pretty excited to bring that one to you. You should be seeing that in a couple weeks, but for this episode, I bring back returning guest Jenni Reed. She's been on the show several times. She's one of my absolute best friends. We have worked in our hometown of Sheridan for a long time, working on theater and different projects together, and we have such a communal mind when it comes to theater and all things theater. So I was really excited to bring this topic to her. I knew she'd have a lot to add, as you'll soon see. So here it is, without further ado, episode 99, Playing Roxie Hart on Broadway. Guess who's back?
Shady's back.
Jenni's back. Hi, Jenni.
Hi, Aaron.
Oh, man. So, okay.
Yeah.
We now together serve on the Civic Theater Guild board.
Yeah.
And we never see each other.
I know. How is that possible?
That's insane. That's absurd. And my listeners, if you're hearing anything that sounds like elephants upstairs,
You would be accurate.
Yeah. No, we got a studio space down at the YO Performing Arts and Education Center, but it's the cool part about that is it's a very busy place now.
It is a very busy place, which is great.
There's a lot of stuff happening, and so we've got I think the Sheridan County Children's Choir up above us in a rehearsal, and they are moving. It sounds like
3rd through 8th graders, something like that.
And it sounds to me like they are moving furniture up there. So
maybe they're turning into a show choir.
It could, yeah. Oh, yeah. Got to put down all their accoutrement. Yeah,
Accoutrement.
Anyway. So, hey, but Jenni, you have been doing a lot with your job, the Valor Academy, with the theater program.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
So it's really cool. This January, we're going to have our annual production, which the YO has graciously been part of for this will be the 3rd year.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And what's really special about this year is we actually have a student written
Oh, you were saying that.
production.
Right.
So we have one of our students who really is he's creative. He's just a unique mind. And he has had this dream to write a play.
Wow.
And so he spent last year kind of doing almost like an independent playwriting class, sort of.
Oh, man.
So Amber, who I work with, and myself kind of helped guide him along with that. And then my daughter, Izzy, who's been on the show,
Yep.
was kind of his little editor, helped him along with that. And really, it's super fun. If you come, for those of you who are local, you'll see references to a lot of well-known genres and even inspiration from different shows and things. You can see a lot of different influences for him, but it is about 2 time-traveling lawyers and their assistants in groups and things and the madcapped adventure that they go on.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah,
That's
you'll
amazing.
see dinosaurs, and you'll see a witch trial.
Oh, well,
And
they
you'll even
needed a
make it
little-
into the future.
I was gonna say they needed a little representation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We got quite the show going on.
That's awesome, though. That's awesome. And so that's happening January
January 19th and 20th.
of 2025.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
2 performances. And yeah, it's going to be, I can't give it away.
No.
You got to come see it
No,
because
right.
there's a lot of surprises.
Time-traveling lawyers.
Yes. Time traveling like in a bathtub.
In a bathtub.
In a bathtub.
Do they get to get out of the bathtub?
Yes.
Okay, good. That would have been
They
very
lose the bathtub even.
Oh, okay, good. I recently heard a story from somebody involving a bathtub the other day, and it was kind of a Mrs. Robinson situation.
Oh, this is not that play.
No.
Yeah, no.
Oh, man. Okay, well, Jenni, that sounds awesome, but, I brought you here for a reason.
I know.
And I have this question for you that I think is going to stir up a lot of discussion, maybe just a little bit, but it takes into account a lot of different factors. So
Okay.
the question
I'm
I
intrigued,
asked
yes.
for you to mull
Yes.
over was, what's a role that's been played numerous times on Broadway that you would like to have a crack at, and why do you think you'd suit that role? 2-part.
Well, okay, so there's 2 ways I looked at this. One is something that might even be current that a lot of people have had many iterations in.
Yep.
Or revivals.
Okay.
So I think there's a little bit of like trepidation when people hit revivals, but one of the coolest things that I love classic musical theater. Love it.
Okay,
When
yeah.
it's Rodgers and Hammerstein,
Right,
you know,
like Golden Age, Silver
Golden
Age.
Age.
Yeah.
I love them. I think there's been some great modern interpretations of some of those. And you know me and Sondheim. Love
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But
Well, and at Oklahoma a few years ago.
oh, that was phenomenally done and
yeah.
so different. And one of the coolest things that's just hit Broadway is a revival of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, yes. Nicole
Have you
Scherzinger
looked
is
at-
getting just amazing
reviews. And Mandy Gonzalez, who I also love, who originated Nina in The Heights, like she's stepping in on Tuesdays for Nicole. And
okay.
the way they're doing it is something that intrigues me because I've always loved that score. I think
Yeah.
it doesn't get enough attention.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah.
Glenn Close.
Well, yeah.
Oh my! And Betty Buckley. Have you seen any clips from Betty Buckley doing it? It's
No.
phenomenal. But I love Betty Buckley. So there's also Elaine Page did it.
Yeah.
And of course Patti LuPone did it on the West End.
Right.
And
right.
I tend to emulate and love those types of modern pipe singers. But what I love about Glenn Close is that she brought so much character
Well, yeah.
to the portrayal,
and
which
that's
was
her.
unexpected.
That's really her, yeah.
And so it's like, it also gives you the freedom to play vocally. So I'm really curious I want to see the new production, but that brought that back to my mind.
Right.
Like, oh, what are some of those classics that I absolutely adore that I would love to revisit and love to sink my teeth
and see
into?
like how it would translate today.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate thing about that is a lot of those have 1 or 2 elements that are, they don't
translate.
They don't meet today's standards
No.
whatsoever. What was I just thinking? Even look, somebody submitted a play to us for play selection.
Oh, yeah.
What is that? Dog Sees God.
Oh, yeah.
And I read it and I went, I can see in 2005 how this was really edgy.
Exactly.
And
But
now I'm like, there's a couple girls who play teenage girls who fat shame a character you never see, and it never gets resolved. And I'm like, today wouldn't work.
No.
Wouldn't work.
It's-
And that play is just ripe with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you got to be. It's really hard. I'm seeing that in the classroom so much, where it's like, well, we're watching something from 1926 right now.
Yeah,
silent film, and I'm like, they're going, well, I don't get it. I'm like, first of all, it's a silent film, so it's.
But why aren't they talking? Well, they are, but
They're talking with their faces. Why are their faces doing what they're doing? Like, because they have no words. Like, so getting that to translate and getting them to go, he kissed her without consent.
oh,
That was maybe the first time I'd ever heard that in a classroom, honestly.
Wow.
At this level, at this age, we've talked a lot about consent and different things, especially in the college classroom, things
Yeah.
like that. We talked a lot about it in theater. And I went, oh, there I have it. Because she immediately, like, as soon as he does that, is like, oh, that was new and different, and I want more, and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, he shouldn't have done that. And I'm like, and I'm like, okay, sure. It's not the point of the play, but whatever.
Well, see, I have that in Rocky Horror, which is my production that's annual is opening this week. And there are things I will not have my shadow cast do.
Right.
I will not have Frankenfurter go into Brad and Janet's bedroom and, basically enter without consent.
Yeah.
And they think that he's somebody else. And I'm
Correct.
like, I
you can't do that. You can't pull that off.
Now.
No.
It just doesn't translate today.
No. And if you look at it, especially the original production film, it's in context of the 70s.
Right.
So that
Absolutely.
makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I've heard people, I think it was Jeff Bridges who said the 70s, we can make any movie in the 70s.
Yes.
We could film anything.
But we can't even make a movie about the 70s the same way, I don't think, even
exactly.
now. And that's the difference. Because I was thinking about this. I love, and to be in this production would have been a highlight for me.
This Sunset Boulevard?
Sunset Boulevard, but also Showboat.
Showboat. Whoa, you are going back.
Yeah.
Man, okay.
Can't help. It's like, oh.
Well, for me, I was thinking about it, and, my first show in college was Damn Yankees.
Yeah, that's another one.
And I was Joe Hardy.
Lola.
And, yep, there you go. But I'm looking at it now, I'm like, I can't. I'm 45. I've got this nice silvery beard.
That's a little creepy.
But I'd make a nice Applegate, maybe. And I'm like, that would be fun.
Now, what's interesting about watching Damn Yankees now and looking at that is the Lola character and what Gwen Verdon does.
Oh, man.
That is actually a character that I think works better the older you are as a woman.
That's interesting you say that, Jenny, because we're going to be talking about one of these roles today.
Really? Mm-hmm. No.
So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get ready on this.
Okay.
In 1924, Chicago-based journalist Maureen Dallas Watkins covered the trials of two different women, Beulah Annan, I think it's Annan, A-N-N-A-N, could be an
Probably.
I don't know.
Probably Annan.
Beulah Annan and Belva Gertner. Both women were accused of killing their lovers, and throughout the trial, they became quite notorious.
Sounds like a plot of a play.
I know, isn't that interesting? In addition to the allure of a true crime story, it was also rumored that, as they were cellmates in the unit known as Murderess's Row, what are we talking about?
This was maybe one of them I would have already mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Annan and Gertner operated a beauty salon for other female inmates out of their cell.
Oh, have you not seen what they do in, like, South America?
Oh, yeah.
It's
well,
amazing.
Maybe not.
No,
but...
seriously, South American prisons. You should look it up.
Oh, okay.
Seriously.
We'll do that.
Side note.
So Gertner was a jazz singer in a club who was accused of killing her lover with his own gun in his car. Annan was, for the best I could see, she was a divorcee who had begun an affair with an auto mechanic.
Yeah, well.
She was accused of killing her lover in her home. Throughout the trial, Annan, her story changed several times. But in the end, she stuck with the story that both she and the mechanic reached for the gun.
The gun, throw the gun.
And she shot him because they found out she was pregnant and he didn't want to keep the baby. Couple slugs in the belly. So the stories of these two women...
Which means she just let him play it out. She didn't do anything.
Help.
I called for help, but no one came.
It was 3 hours, and I watched him writhe. Oh, no.
No, I went out for a drink. Sorry.
But pregnant? Come on.
Back then, yeah.
So the stories of these two women captivated the city, much like the current fad of true crime has seemed to grow an incredible audience today. And eventually, each of the women was acquitted.
Shocker.
I know. So the journalist I mentioned earlier, Maureen Dallas Watkins, well, she covered the whole thing and saw the dramatic storytelling possibilities of the stories of these two women and dramatized the stories into a full-length satirical non-musical play in 1926, Chicago.
Okay.
Yep. The play then inspired a silent film with the same title in 1927 and a talkie in 1942 entitled Roxie Hart.
Yep.
But of course, the biggest adaptation of Watkins' work we all now know as the 1975 musical adaptation by Condor and Ebb, Chicago, as well as the massively popular film adaptation of the musical in 2002.
Which I've never seen all of.
Okay, this interview is over.
I've never actually sat down and watched it from beginning to end.
It's so amazing.
I've seen parts of it, and, well, Catherine Zeta-Jones was just phenomenal.
I think Steve Martin hosted the Oscars the year that it came out. He was one of the hosts, and I think one of his jokes, it was one of my absolute favorite things. He said, they have done something so diabolical and so unforeseen. They made a movie that everyone likes.
Well, I mean, he tried in a couple of his own, but
Yep. Now, as far as the characters are concerned, Watkin used real-life participants in the murder trials to inspire the creation of several of the characters that still exist today, including slick, high-priced lawyer Billy Flynn, slinky and sultry jazz murderess Velma Kelly, and the subject of this episode, Roxie Hart, a housewife accused of murdering her lover and uses her notoriety to rocket to stardom.
We're talking 15 minutes.
We're talking Roxie today.
I was like, I was like, how cliche is it?
I know.
To say, I desperately want to be.
Oh yeah,
either one of them.
Who wouldn't?
Who wouldn't?
If I could tap dance, of course I'd be Billy Flynn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I would put tights on and wear a tuxedo jacket.
Yeah. Right.
Any day of the week.
Now, you're going to love this as we get into this because you're about the age range, actually. As a lot of them.
Because I thought about that when I was younger. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I can't pull that off.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
Like in your 20s? You're
dream.
Yeah.
Fosse, period. Mm-hmm. But the more I looked into it, too, because it was one of my plays that I was asked by one of my college directors to be like, look into this. Because we couldn't do it on our campus. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
There's no way. I mean, we pulled off Guys and Dolls and a couple that, we pulled off Pippin, sort of. And then my senior year, let's just put it this way, they did Man of La Mancha.
Okay. Great roles for women.
So anyway, Mark was like, okay, Jen, look at Chicago.
Yeah.
Dive into it. Where did it come from? Where did it start? Mm-hmm. So not a lot of this is shockingly new news to me.
Right.
But I was looking more at the Fosse Verdon.
Oh.
And Cheetah Rivera production and looking at that history. And that history has always fascinated me. Yeah. Because Fosse's always fascinated me. Gwen Verdon has been an absolute icon.
Oh, for so many people.
Yeah.
I've had male guests on this show who said if I could go back and be anybody, I'd be Gwen Verdon.
Gwen Verdon. 100%. Or Vera Ellen.
Yeah.
If I could dance like her, I don't want her life experience. I could dance like her.
No.
But and the movement, because we don't get to do a lot of that movement.
Oh, no.
I was thinking, when you watch Sweet Charity, when you watch any production that Fosse has, that even when he does his classic, you watch him dance in Kiss Me Kate.
Yeah.
But then when you look at Gwen Verdon and Cheetah Rivera in their 40s.
Yes.
Kicking bucket and taking names.
Yes. And they understand their bodies at that point.
Yes.
And they know their capabilities because they've been doing it for
and the power
30 years.
Of the female.
Yeah.
The power of the female.
Yeah.
And in my 20s, and I would venture to say, I'm going to say it. In our 20s, women, we have no concept of the power.
Oh, yes.
And the magnetism that the female form in all of its iterations has.
Right. Yeah, I have a company member in Rocky Horror right now who is just turned 40. And years ago, she ran a burlesque company in Denver. And so usually when I'm doing the floor show, it's a big burlesque number at the end. I have my 5 performers in that. Just try to figure out how they have sexual power. And so I had them do that, and I said, okay, this burlesque member, why don't you show them a little bit more? And
it's different.
There were some light bulbs that went on.
Well, part of it is just the older you get, the more you just simply know your body.
Yeah.
You simply just have had the time with
Right.
it. You
Yeah.
also go through experiences.
Mm-hmm.
You go through relationships, you go through trials, you go through changes, you go through so much physically
Yep.
besides the mental
Right.
and emotional, which adds, you cannot approach a convincing Velma for sure
Oh, man, no.
without age.
Right.
You
Right.
can't.
No.
And Roxie, I think, is in some ways like that epitome of the desperation a woman also has to hold on to beauty, youth, and power, not necessarily understanding.
Right.
That's not going anywhere.
Right. No. So we got a lot more to cover here.
No, Lord.
So my listeners, if you don't know the play at all, I'll give a brief synopsis so you can follow along with the rest of the episode. And after the synopsis, we're going to chat about what it takes to make a successful Roxie, and just a few of the more notorious times Roxie has been played on Broadway.
Oh, some of them.
Oh boy, it's great. And while we do love many of the characters in the play, the story is really Roxie's story.
Yeah.
So, synopsis. In 1920s Chicago, newspapers sold in droves covering the most scandalous elements of grisly murders that seem to happen quite often. Even more scandalous, according to this story, many of these murderers were committed by women. Enter Roxie Hart. A skinny young blonde with aspirations to be a big jazz singer, housewife Roxie Hart cheats on her husband Amos with a furniture salesman, Fred Casely. When Fred tries to call off the affair, Roxie takes her husband's gun out of their nightstand and kills Fred in the home she shares with her husband. She originally tries to get Amos to take the blame, as she says that Fred was a prowler who broke in, and she used the gun to defend herself. But when Roxie's husband Amos discovers that the dead man is Fred Casely, who he remembers as their furniture salesman, he realizes his wife lied to him, and she's hauled off to jail to await trial.
Yeah, he turns on her.
Yeah. She befriends many of the other women on Murderess's Row, who all claim that they're innocent, which most of them are actually probably guilty. Roxie conspires with some of the other women to gain the attention of Matron Mama Morton, the warden, who gets Roxie the attention of celebrity defense lawyer Billy Flynn, who is almost guaranteed to get Roxie acquitted. Billy gets the press really, really excited about the idea that Roxie is an innocent victim of circumstance, and Chicago falls in love with Roxie. Well, you're getting me your big doe eyes and batting him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It couldn't have been me, so that's terrible.
That was really bad.
That was really bad. It's only when Roxie's inmate rival, accused murderer and famous jazz singer Velma Kelly, starts to get more attention that Roxie adds another element to her, air quotes, backstory. She claims she's pregnant.
Baby.
And immediately the press falls in love with her all over again, leading up to the trial. So I think I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good synopsis.
I mean, sometimes I review a full play on this show, but I'd rather have my listeners go out and consume this play on their own.
It's worth it.
It's so worth it.
It's so worth it.
It's really worth the time. I don't think I've ever met anybody who doesn't like it in some form.
It's so good.
Yeah. I mean, I finally actually saw it live in Seattle about 20 years ago with a touring company. And it's so cool. It's just all in front of the orchestra.
The orchestra.
There's like
the
no
way
setting.
it's put on,
Yeah.
it's always just this really cool, you feel almost like you're in a jazz club.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's first talk the character of Roxie herself, now that you know her journey. In my research, I found this great checklist from Backstage.com on how to play a good Roxie Hart.
Oh, I've never read that.
Yeah, so I have to give them props, as I think that while this isn't a complete how-to guide, I think it's a great template for us to consider on this episode.
Okay.
As well as try to apply it to the many who have played Roxie on Broadway.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
Number one, how does her journey relate to fame?
Okay.
This is one of the things that Roxie has wanted all her life. So in a way, it's almost a bit of a Faustian tale that Roxie seems to be willing to do just about anything to be a jazz singer, but also to be famous for being famous.
Yes.
So Jenni, if I were to ask you that, how would fame shape how you would have played Roxie?
I think it plays into the desperation.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to physically hold that desperation. You have to be able to be like malleable.
Yep.
So like the puppet. There's a scene in the play where she pretends.
Oh, yeah, she's ventriloquist.
Yeah.
dummy.
So she's the dummy. And I think that plays to the fact that she's willing to completely empty herself.
Yeah.
To refill herself, to claw, cling, and stay in that light.
Yeah. Well, yes. Yeah.
But there's also, it's not an innocence.
Oh, no.
It is a complete farce.
Yeah.
It is a complete fake. And I think I've seen the sorry. Well,
Where she's buying into her lie.
she's buying into her own lie, but the problem with that is she's more calculated than that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
She's not stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that song you were just referencing, there are times in it where she drops the act.
Yeah.
And says something that Billy then has to scurry to get the press back on his side.
Right.
And listening to him and not her.
Yeah, and I think that goes into it too because she's not her own voice piece.
Yeah.
So I think that goes into the claim to fame idea is the circumstance becomes the fame. How do you translate the circumstance to you?
Yes. Okay. All right. This gets into our next couple. Number 2, we as the audience still have to like Roxie.
Yeah, that's hard sometimes.
Yeah. So here's a quote from backstage. On paper, Roxie isn't the kind of character the audience should root for. Before Chicago to work, they need to. So any actor playing the role has to ensure that she's captivating, whether through wide-eyed ambition, self-aware dryness, or something all on their own.
Yeah.
She's not a good person.
She is not a good person.
How do we make that likable?
You have to make her a character you want to be.
Yeah. Okay.
I think you have to. She has to be something you could attain.
Well, see, I think
relate
that's also.
to.
I think that's also alluding back to what you were saying earlier about it takes an older actor to play this younger part.
Absolutely.
This is something I've been saying to 20-year-olds for a couple of years now.
Oh, yeah.
Because the world is different than when you and I grew up. Like, you and I both worked with college kids for a while.
Yeah.
And advising them. And the world is completely different than when you and I went to school and had a bachelor's degree and could get a professional job,
Yes.
regardless of what it said.
Because you had a bachelor's. Yeah.
Now,
No.
not the case.
No.
So this is what I'm advising kids to do.
Get a job?
No.
Oh.
Your 20s are for messing around and finding out mistakes.
What do you want?
Yeah.
Make the mistakes while you can and have
Yeah.
a safety net.
Like, maybe a kid wants to go into. Well, I'm advising my son on this right now. He's 16. He's looking at jobs, and he goes, "I don't want to have a regular job, and I want to make a lot of money." He's in a welding class in high school right now. He loves it.
Oh,
I'm like,
huge money.
well, go weld for 10
Yeah.
years if you want to.
You can make
a
so
ton of
much money
and then
with a
figure
welding
out-
certificate.
Yeah, and then figure out what else you
Yeah.
want to do.
Dabble.
When you get to like 29, 30.
Yeah,
Because
dabble.
you can go back to school.
It ain't going nowhere.
No. So that's what I think is
Yeah.
like it helps to have somebody who has been there, who can accurately portray. No slight to the 20-somethings out there, but like the airheaded, like I didn't think that would happen, sense of being in your 20s.
Right. Because that's an accident in
Yeah.
your 20s. There's an intention
Yeah.
that's different. And I think you cannot do intention without age.
Right.
You
Right.
can't. It's so much more difficult. I mean, I don't know how, I remember hearing, if I had known that when I was your age. Now I'm saying that.
Yeah. Now I
to
am that age.
Yeah. I am that age, and they're not wrong. And
Nope.
They're not wrong, and they're like the wisdom that comes from that can make a character so much more well-rounded, and flaws can be attractive.
Yeah.
But you have to know that. And we're trying to get rid of our flaws in our 20s and
Right.
ignore our flaws in our 20s. And in our upper ages, I mean, you and I have talked about this before. I mean, hitting 40 was actually like freeing.
Oh my God.
It was like,
Now I could do so much more.
Thank God I don't have to like. Oh my gosh! Like, and there's a freedom that allows you so much more exploration because you're so not worried. You're not worried, so you're willing to take risks.
Right.
You're willing to be like, it doesn't matter. The consequences are not what you actually think they are.
Yeah, right. See, I would think as a director, if I were trying to help my Roxie figure out this part, I think I'd focus on some of the revelations she makes in her eponymous song, Roxie.
Roxie.
She's funny like an insult comic in that one.
Oh, 100%.
And I think that's where most of her charm comes from.
Absolutely.
It's like seeing Bob Saget on Full House and then watching
his comedy.
stand-up, and
Yes!
it's like the raunchiest thing you've ever heard.
And you're going, what is happening? And it's fantastic.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And you're like, I like you so much more now. And then you're like, hold on, I've got to shoot another episode of America's Funniest Home Videos.
Right.
Look at the Millers and the pie in the face.
If you ever, like, as an adult watching some of those reruns
Oh my God.
of him, he flung some zingers that,
Oh.
how did they get past the censors? I don't know. And I'm sitting there, just the smirk on his face.
Yeah.
And I think that's what can often be missed
Ah.
with Roxie.
Okay, which goes into my next one. Number 3,
Oh, okay.
bring a part of yourself into the performance.
Okay.
This is what I talk about in acting all the time.
Well, you have to have
yeah.
a connection.
Right.
If you're completely alienated from a character, you shouldn't be playing
Yeah.
it.
Now, I agree with Backstage on this one. They don't give a lot of backstory or much defining information about Roxie in the script.
You can infer a lot.
Oh, yeah. So I always contend that everything an actor needs to know about a character is written out in the script. And if there's nothing there, well, there will be things that, obviously need to be researched sometimes based on what's written. You don't have everything in your database. But with Roxie, like I said, there's almost nothing.
But there's some obvious things
Yes.
that aren't written, but are obvious based on other characters' behaviors,
Right. Right.
too.
Well, in fact, Billy Flynn has to create that entire backstory to
Yeah.
get the press to fall in love with her. Almost nobody at that time would be able to fact check any of that stuff.
Oh, no.
Not like today.
That's the hard part to like grasp. I think we also, elephants are back. I think we also love the escapism
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
in the modern world that you can't get away from things today. But
Yeah.
this story is still relatable, but there's that element of you can become anything.
Yeah.
We don't really even, I would say 20 years ago even, you could still do it to a certain extent.
Yeah.
25 years ago for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's something that's kind of interesting. I was just talking about this yesterday with my mom about the production of 42nd Street that I did in college.
Oh, yeah.
The director that, John Engstrom, if you're listening, John, hi, was one of the dance captains for the original production on Broadway.
Yeah.
So he wasn't there the night Gower Champion died. I think he might have been. But he sees it as one of his life's works to continue the curation of Gower's vision. So he's probably directed over 100 times.
Good heavens.
And his husband, Cliff, saw me do it. And he's like, and I think the words that came out of his mouth were like, "You're not like Jerry Orbach at all." I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of the point.
Yeah, but I can see where people would fall into that, where
Yeah.
they're like, well, if we're trying to create the original vision, then I got to be Jerry Orbach. Like, no.
No, you got to be true to the playwright's
Yeah.
words.
And
It's like,
you're adding yourself.
right, because you're adding, that's the whole point of acting
Yeah,
is creation.
yeah.
And without that, you're two-dimensional.
Yeah, I mean, I was
You're flat.
At 22. I was a 6 foot tall, barrel-chested guy. I wasn't Jerry Orbach.
No, he's a Reed.
Yeah, so how I can't play Jerry Orbach. So
No one can play Jerry Orbach.
No.
But Jerry Orbach.
Right, exactly.
I mean, yeah, he's Lumiere.
Now that we have a good template for Roxie,
Okay.
let's talk about the history of the show on
no.
Broadway and how we got to where we are with it today. So
Can we only talk about Gwen instead?
No. Because as Backstage also said, after nearly 50 years, the better question is, who hasn't played her?
They had a freaking Real Housewife.
And 3 of them.
3 more.
Yep. Okay. We're getting there. The musical opened on Broadway in 1975, and remember, this is the one with the fabulous Bob Fosse choreography, and Fosse also directed, hot off his run in Cabaret.
With Gwen and Gina.
Uh-huh. Chicago actually opened to really mixed reviews.
Oh, it was horrible. It was a flop,
Yeah.
basically.
It was nominated for several Tony Awards and won none of them.
Because they're stupid.
It was completely skunked by another very popular show that opened around the same time, A Chorus Line.
I know.
Yeah.
Which is good in its own right.
Yeah,
and
right.
there's,
I think at the time it just spoke more to the zeitgeist of the 70s right then.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Chicago is this, it's hearkening back to 50 years prior.
Yeah.
In the 70s.
Even though it was innovative musically.
Yeah.
And physically.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually listened to that version while I was getting this ready, and I was like, "Jeez, they're going so fast."
Oh, yeah.
It was amazing. Yet, Chicago still played on Broadway from June 5th, 1975 to August 27th, 1977, in its initial run for a total of 936 performances. I mean, it's not bad for a really odd time in Broadway musicals, especially when Broadway in the 1970s wasn't exactly known for being a completely welcoming place.
I don't know what you're referring to.
I mean, unless you enjoyed prostitution, adult massage parlors, or peep shows.
It was not known as a family-friendly spot.
The play went on tours and played major markets like the West End and was eventually revived on Broadway beginning on November 14th, 1996, and for the last nearly 28 years has been playing ever since.
Yeah, the first revival is one of my favorite iterations of it. Anne Ranking, B.B. Newirth.
Yep. Oh, we'll be talking about that in a minute.
Okay, good.
1975, original cast. You ready to go down the laundry list? Uh-huh. Gwen Verdon.
I know.
First Roxie. I will always remember her as Lola in Dan Yankees, as we discussed before, and of course as Bob Fosse's spouse, despite his numerous affairs over the years.
They weren't married, though, during Chicago.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Which is also says a lot. They were already divorced.
Yep. But Verdon played Roxie opposite Cheetah Rivera as Velma Kelly and Jerry Orbach as Billy Flynn.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Right.
So let's put a pin in that, reminding ourselves that this is still a business, and adding big names to a poster is obviously a way to sell tickets. Keep that in mind. It's coming up.
Well, yeah, because no one in their right mind would have thought, with that script, with the description of those characters, to cast Cheetah Rivera and Gwen Verdon.
Oh, my God. No.
That
Like that
doesn't... It makes sense if you look at the material closely, but it doesn't make sense on the surface at all.
Yeah,
It
to a
doesn't.
degree. I can see that, yeah. So, first thoughts. How do you think she did?
It was tough.
It was what?
It was, I think, for Gwen,
Oh, God.
it was hard.
Yes.
It was very, very, very challenging. It was one of the most difficult things she did. She talks about that, coming back, ex-husband, the whole thing. Like, my love for her, you barely scratched the surface. But this was one of the hardest things she's ever done in her whole entire career.
Oh, yeah.
When you look back at how she did Sweet Charity and Lola and Damn Yankees and things like that, and all of the early things, this was something that physically and vocally she was not ready for.
Yeah.
But could she understand Roxie? Absolutely.
Yep.
Could she embody it? Yes. And is she up to Cheetah's dancing? I don't know,
Yeah.
honestly.
New York Times reviewers generally hated the show itself, but Clive Barnes at least had this to say about the big three, that the show offered audiences, quote, superlative, knock 'em in the aisles performances by three stars who glitter like gold dust.
Because they're professionals and they know what they're doing.
They've been there for 30 years. Now, here's what Backstage put together about Verdon's performance. Quote, she gave a subtler, drier performance than many of her successors. Her conversational tone is oddly captivating. She sucked the audience in early and kept them in the palm of her hand.
She was quiet.
Yeah.
She knows. It's the time when you have a light and nothing else on stage.
Yeah.
And that woman can do anything with a whisper.
Right.
She doesn't have to be Ethel Merman.
Right. And, of course, the bright red hair.
Doesn't hurt.
Yeah. So there's a whole big behind-the-scenes story, as you were alluding to, about Verdon playing Roxie, which could be probably an entire episode of this show.
Yeah.
But I think the whole situation with Verdon playing Roxie was really well dramatized in that miniseries Fosse Verdon.
Oh, yeah.
I never did see it, but
You
it has
didn't? It was
Sam
really good.
Rockwell playing Bob Fosse, Michelle Williams playing Gwen Verdon.
Which
outstanding
she was outstanding.
cast. Yeah. But I'll give you some highlights, though. Gwen Verdon would have been 40 when this play opened. She just had a baby. Her ex-husband was a drug addict. And only directed this show as a favor to Gwen Verdon to, quote, make up for being so promiscuous throughout their marriage.
Yeah. And
Thanks.
put his mistress as her understudy. Who I also adore.
Oh, God.
And who actually Gwen adored.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
I mean, she knew it was him.
Yeah.
Bob was no angel.
Now, unfortunately, less than a year into the production, Gwen Verdon accidentally swallowed a feather from one of the costumes in the finale, which irritated her throat, and she had to be removed from the show as she required surgery on vocal nodes and would be out for some time.
It changed her voice, actually.
Who replaced her?
Anne Ranking.
Liza Minnelli.
Liza Minnelli did? I thought it was Anne. Liza did?
For about a month.
Oh, my Lord. Had she just come off Cabaret?
Yeah, well, a little bit, yeah. Minnelli's performance got a lot better reviews than Verdon's.
She's a better vocalist.
Yeah. Which just added even more drama to the whole situation.
I didn't know it was Liza. God.
But Verdon, she returned quite quickly and played Roxie from September 15th, 1975 through February 5th, 1977. It's a good long run. Verdon was then replaced for the remainder of the run for only about 6 months by the actor who would then play the part in the 1996 revival, Anne Reinking.
Yep.
And that's the next person we're talking about.
I love her. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. She's amazing.
No, this is when my love of her. So you have to remember this. This is in my baby book.
Yeah.
Because I had just been born.
Oh.
Right before the show.
Okay.
Right before Gwen comes off. This is a big thing for me. But Anne, you have to remember, too, she's also Grace and Annie.
Yes.
So our childhoods, if you're any kind of theater nerd,
Yeah.
the only thing we could ever sometimes get were movie versions of things. Right? And
Seriously, go look her up.
Oh my gosh.
Her resume on Broadway is incredible.
No one has her resume.
No. No.
It's sick.
Yeah. Now, while it's my understanding that Anne Reinking taking over for Verdon could have been seen as controversial, both Verdon and Reinking have indicated that it couldn't have been smoother.
Yeah.
Anne had been discovered by Fosse when she was in the company for Pippin and became a natural student of his choreography as she appeared in his cabaret for nearly 3 years.
Yeah.
So she was something of a natural to replace Verdon, who had begun to focus on a film career anyway. And while Reinking's performance was cut somewhat short in 1977, in 96, the longevity was much better. Originally, Chicago was meant to be a short-term offering as part of the Encores concert series offered at City Center. This was also the production to feature Bebe Neuwirth as Velma Kelly, and tickets sold out for every performance of those encores. And the play was then transferred to a Broadway production, winning 6 Tony Awards that year.
Yeah.
While Reinking was brought in for Chicago, not only was she to play Roxie Hart, but also to choreograph and direct the production.
Because she knows.
She knows it
so well.
And her efforts were rewarded with multiple awards, including a Tony Award for choreography.
Well deserved.
Well deserved.
I love that iteration. I love the first revival.
Now, this is the iteration, this is the production in which we begin to associate Chicago with tight black outfits, mesh and fishnets and bowlers and fedoras.
That was not the original at all. I mean, there's a couple, like the duet at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, the jazz, what is it, the Hot Honey Rag?
Yeah. But the opener changed with Bebe.
Yep. All that jazz.
Roller stockings. Yep. And all of that changed with I think Anne could see the potential for a more modern way of approaching it.
Well, this is part of the reason why I still do Rocky Horror in our small little rural town.
Yeah.
Is there's an audience.
Yeah.
And it's unconventional, and there are people out there who want an unconventional product.
Yeah.
So give it to them. Oh, and by the way, this is also currently the second longest running musical in Broadway history.
Yeah.
This revival.
Yeah. Because they bring it back for an encores, and it basically never goes away.
Right. Well, there's a lot more to do with that in the casting.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
going to get depressed, aren't I?
Reinking played Roxie initially from the first preview on October 23rd, 1996, through opening on November 14th, 1996, at the age of 47, and stayed through June 22nd, 1997. So the better part of a year.
Yeah.
Ryan King came back to fill in a few more times before her death in 2020.
I know.
So how'd she do as Roxie? Let's ask New York Times critic Ben Brantley.
Oh, not. Okay.
How do you do Fosse without Fosse? The answer in 2 words, and Ryan King. Chicago is a particular personal triumph for Miss Ryan King. The years have mellowed her Minnie Mouse voice into a sensual smokiness and refined her comic timing. Her deceptively casual dancing both exudes ripe sexuality and winks at it. And her show-stopping performance of Roxie with a cadre of chorus boys is a really blissed-out erotic duet between a star and her audience.
Her version, I'm sorry, cannot be topped.
No.
To be perfectly honest, that would be my dream to do her justice. That would be hard because I think one can.
Yeah.
But to draw that inspiration as an actor.
Oh my gosh.
Would be how she took something that was already almost iconic.
Yeah.
And then made it more.
Well, this is the same. I love this discussion, and I have this discussion often with people when they're talking about, well, they can't play that role. You ask some people, Sean Connery is the only James Bond.
Oh, yes.
You ask some people, Michael Keaton is the only Batman. I mean,
I get that. Yeah.
But, when we hear that some up-and-coming young actor is going to be the next Hamlet, you're like, ooh, well, that will be an interesting choice. We don't have a problem with it when it's in theater.
We don't. And we don't have a problem with it in material that we're used to seeing.
Right.
I think that some of it is I almost wonder if there's a comfortableness that is becoming passé.
Okay.
And that's probably my biggest pet peeve, irk, when I think about a musical that I absolutely, if I don't think about what we're talking about, or going to be talking about, that I adore, that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
And how do we stay away from that and keep that from becoming tainted?
Yes. Yeah. Okay, continuing on here. Many have credited Ryan King's version as much of the inspiration for what has come after. For example, her monologue before the song Roxie didn't seem extemporaneous, like a performer going off script, but rather it seemed rehearsed, something she's done 100 times in a full-length mirror at home.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. What am I going to say if I actually get the spotlight? What do I say when I get to Carnegie Hall?
I know how I will introduce myself.
Right.
And I also know how I will transition from piece to piece, and I will know my acceptance speech upon the Tony, Emmy, Oscar,
right,
and so on and
Precisely.
so forth.
No fumbling in your pocket for the 8 sheets of paper. You know it.
Absolutely.
Now, it's after Ryan King that something interesting started to happen to how Roxie was played on Broadway. Quote, "It is a role well suited to celebrity casting because it can accommodate a range of vocal and dance abilities. This has opened the door to singers, actors, and even reality stars to be the next to don the top hat and play the musical murderer."
It does lend itself to that. It honestly does, but at the same time, do you really want Paris Hilton being Roxie?
Maybe. So
she makes more sense than some of them who've done it.
That's true. So it started to become a vehicle in which almost anyone with some fame who could possibly fit the character description could play the role and be more of a box office draw.
I'm making faces.
Yes. Now, I will say that there have been a handful of current Broadway actors who have played Roxie or even made their Broadway debut playing her.
Yes.
So here's a short laundry list of them. Bianca Marroquin played Roxie in Mexico.
Really?
So well, she was brought to Broadway. First Mexican woman to transition from Mexico to Broadway in a leading role. Yeah, and she played it so many times over the years.
That's cool, though.
Like when they need to, they
bring
in
her
Bianca.
in. She just knows it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mary Lou Henner.
Nuh-uh.
June 24th, 1997.
Oh, no, I think I
March
did
22nd,
see that. Yep.
1998.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sandy Duncan played Roxie for a while in 1999.
I am giving Aaron a look that goes, "Dear God in heaven, please no."
British celebrity Denise Van Outen played her in in the early 2000s, and she's done a lot of stuff on TV,
Yeah.
but really does have some legit theater in her resume, playing Eponine.
Oh,
As a youngster in
okay.
Les Mis.
That's
and
where I
did
know that.
perform for the Royal Shakespeare Company in A Midsummer Night's Dream.
So she's got some chops.
She knows.
It's not like they just picked her off a housewife's table.
But this is something.
Sorry.
There's one who if I didn't include her in this list, and I'm probably going to murder her name, I would be completely remiss. Charlotte d'Amboise has reprised the role on Broadway 28 times in this production.
I think I know who that is. I bet
She's a spunky little thing with like a red bob.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think the trend of bringing in actors to play Roxie for a limited time, Charlotte became the perfect placeholder for Roxie in between celebrities. Because
That makes sense.
She knows it.
Yeah.
It's like her and Bianca, we'll just call them up.
Yeah.
But speaking of celebrities, I suppose you know some of them, but
I
you'd
do
like
know.
to know
I don't want to know all of them.
Yeah.
I don't know all of them, but oh my
You'd like to know about some of the celebrities we might know. So I think I'll just rattle these off, and you give your honest opinion on whether or not you think each actor would be a good
Thumbs
Roxie.
up, thumbs down.
We can do that. And remember the criteria. What's this got to do with fame? Make the audience like Roxie? And what can each actor bring of themselves into the role? And I couldn't find reviews for all of these, but I think the first one gives us a pretty good review and suggestion for future Roxies on this list, whether they paid attention or not. But I think it's also telling a couple different stories about why I couldn't really find reviews for all of them.
There's not gonna be. Yeah.
Melanie Griffith.
Yeah, I heard about that one.
Played for a brief time in 2006 for the 10th anniversary run. This was also when then-husband Antonio Banderas was getting rave reviews in Nine. Right across the street.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the review that I'm like, okay, this is the template. This is a good addition to the fame and like her and all that. This is from Charles Isherwood in Variety. It would be a lie to suggest her inexperience doesn't show.
That was kind.
It certainly does when it comes to the musical and terpsichorean duties Griffith has to undertake. She didn't sing or dance well at all. But these undeniable weaknesses are ultimately overridden, at least for this veteran of at least half a dozen Chicago casts, by Griffith's fresh and thoroughly endearing take on the role. The contours of the character fit Griffith's screen persona like a lace glove.
I was gonna say it's like Working Girl.
Yeah. Inside this Roxie, a knowing woman plays the lost little girl. Playing the lost little girl is a real little girl lost.
Ooh.
That's great.
Wow. That is a great.
Yeah. And with her breathiness.
Oh,
and,
that's
you know,
that's all I can hear it.
Uh-huh.
Right? You
Yeah.
can hear it.
But it's that in a time when I think she was in her 50s by that point.
Yeah.
And
Early 2000s.
And everybody knew her.
Yeah.
Like everybody knew Melanie Griffith.
Well, and everybody's going to associate certain things. They're going to associate, first of all, her marriages.
Right.
Second of all, her film career.
Yes.
And those kinds of characters.
Right.
I mean, if you look at her character in Working Girl, it's very Roxie.
It's very Roxie.
Very Roxie.
And Something Wild.
Yeah.
And I'm even thinking of like Bonfire of the Bandit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where, I was born at night, just not last night. I think that's a line from that.
Yeah. Which is true.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the brilliance she has as a businesswoman, but can't be taken seriously.
Right.
But yet, I'm going to show you exactly how I'm going to do this.
And you are going to fall in love with me.
Because you can't help yourself.
Can't help yourself. Oh, my God. Okay, next. Paige Davis.
I love Paige Davis,
Who
though.
doesn't love Paige Davis?
And Paige has a serious theater background that nobody realized. I remember when she was cast in this, I'm like, finally! Because she's coming back to Broadway after being the TLC host of all hosts.
Right. Yeah. So as you were mentioning, she was the host of Trading Spaces, and she first played Roxie for a short engagement in 2004, but returned to the role several times again because she was so popular in it. And of course, in 2004, Davis was a huge star for the Home Improvement Show and was something of America's sweetheart.
She really was.
I mean, everybody loved her. She was on magazine. She was in interviews.
Yes.
I mean, how many times did she do Regis and
But
Kelly?
she actually has Broadway chops and Broadway background.
And along with her spouse, Broadway star Patrick Page. I mean, you know, this is just a Broadway powerhouse couple.
Oh, absolutely.
And she's been on Broadway so many other times since then.
That's how they met.
Okay, here we go. Ashley Simpson.
Wait, what? No.
Yeah.
Nope.
Following a bit of a surge in her 2000s pop singing career.
But she's so young.
Yeah. Now listen to this, though. Now, this stint was probably an attempt to get out of the shadow of her much more famous pop singer sister, Jessica Simpson, and a bit of a scandal involving lip syncing on Saturday
Night Live. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, back when she had black hair.
Yeah. Ashley Simpson played Roxy for a brief engagement from November 2009 through February 2010. And this was after she'd actually played the role on the West End in 2006 and seemed to be something of a box office draw. So
Seriously?
She did well in London. And I watched a little bit of it, and it is very much, she's very young, but her voice...
She actually is not a bad singer.
No.
At all.
No.
She's really not.
Yeah.
I mean, if you listen, both her and Jessica actually have some serious singing chops.
Right. Yeah. But this is also when she was married to Fall Out Boy's Pete Wentz. And...
Okay. Right.
Brooke Shields.
Now that I would see.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to lie. You put Brooke Shields' name up on a marquee, it's kind of like when she played Rizzo in Grease.
Yeah. And from what I understand, Shields started to become something of a Broadway replacement expert following this role. She did fill in briefly for Roxy a couple times, once in 2005 and again in 2010, replacing Ashley Simpson in 2010.
Can you imagine being replaced by Brooke Shields?
Oh my God. Like
Seriously?
Yeah. Even I think she's almost 60 at this point.
At least.
And looks 40.
I know.
Sorry.
I know. It's fine. Whatever.
Christy Brinkley.
Yeah, I heard that one too. I actually saw clips of this one.
Mm-hmm. I only saw a picture, and I went, well,
no, I saw
of course.
She looks...
Yes.
She's
a swimsuit model.
She's the Uptown Girl. I get it.
Uh-huh. Yep. Now, before her Broadway debut in April 2011, model Christy Brinkley had played Roxy a few times in major markets. Quote, prior to Broadway, Brinkley played Roxy in the Chicago National Tour at the Orpheum Theater in Phoenix from March 29th to April 2nd, followed by a 7-show engagement at the Venetian Theater inside the Venetian Resort Las Vegas, April 10th through the 14th. So just a few days. But that was when Vegas was like Broadway light.
Yeah. You just do a quick one. You just do
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not anymore. That's a bummer.
I know. Isn't that sad?
I'd love to go see big musicals.
Yeah,
again.
they used to. Phantom was there.
Yeah.
And, plus we could, it's actually kind of close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. By the way, Brinkley was 57 at the time she played Roxy.
She looks
for
22.
The first time. Yes. And she was brought back for a short time in 2012 and then again in 2019.
Interesting.
Here's the next one.
Brandy. I was waiting for you to say Brandy. This was her Broadway debut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The R&B star made her debut as Roxy in 2015, but again came back to play her in 2017. And incidentally, it's my understanding that Brandy made Broadway history alongside co-star Lana Gordon when they were the first two black women to play 2 lead roles of Roxy and Velvet Kelly at the same time.
Yep. It was huge.
Yeah. And I go back and I think of some of these, like, okay, Christy Brinkley, yeah, okay, she's a model. Everybody knows her. Remember her from Vacation? Okay. And Brooke Shields, who doesn't know Brooke Shields, right? You'd go. Brandy, that's a risk in a way.
It is. I think it was a huge risk because she was older. Mm-hmm. Her acting career had kind of waned after her Moesha years.
Yeah.
And I love Moesha. Yeah. Look it up.
I did just accidentally turn on I Still Know What You Did That Last Summer the other day.
She was in that. Yep, she was in the... I forgot about that. That's right. She's the college friend. Mm-hmm. And then she kind of had gone into motherhood. She hadn't done a lot of music even. Right. So, it's like The Boy Is Mine is from the... that's... nobody... But the generation who has the money to pay for the tickets knows who she is.
Right.
Our generation.
Well, they do now. Yeah.
Our generation, we have the money. Mm-hmm. We're the adults now alongside her.
Right.
And Precisely. So I think that was probably a calculated risk. Mm-hmm. And I think it paid off. Yeah. Honestly.
And what a
I think it paid off for her.
What a charming smile that woman has.
She's the ability to just light up.
Right.
And then she doesn't have to say anything.
Right. And that can be part of that decidedly deceptive part of Roxy.
Yes.
Which you're just charmed. Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, African-American celebrities have also been quite popular in playing Roxy over the years. Michelle T. Williams of Destiny's Child. played her for a short stint in 2010.
Now starring on Broadway in Death Becomes Her.
Death Becomes Her, yeah. And that's
Very proud of her.
something that I think a lot of people forget is, yes, Destiny's Child. Yes, Beyonce was the superstar.
But Kelly and Michelle are phenomenal.
They're incredible. They are incredible.
They are incredible.
Yeah, yeah. So it makes sense.
I love
to
Michelle's
me.
voice.
Yeah.
I love her voice.
Well,
it's got a little bit of that rasp.
Yes.
That's what I love about it.
And she knows her body by this point. I mean, you can see it in Survivor.
Yeah.
You know.
She's also a fascinating character as she's aged too, because she's been so consistent.
Yeah.
In who she is and how she approaches things, and
Right.
she probably brings that steadiness and that, I think, a little bit more of that almost control and understanding
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
it.
Well, to be
She would have been fun to watch.
one of a trio of African American superstars
Yeah.
for a few years.
Yeah.
Knows how to is obviously professional.
100%.
We haven't heard any controversy from
None.
this person. So, yeah, that's a solid ticket, I
Yeah.
think.
100%.
Yeah, and a great performance, I'm sure, too. Mel B, Scary Spice,
That would be interesting.
played Roxy from December 28th, 2016 through February
That's
19th,
got to be a wink,
2017.
wink one. Right? She's coming from it from a totally new perspective, baby.
I am Roxy.
And embraces it 1,000%.
Right.
Oh my
You wanna
gosh,
talk
that would
scandal?
be fun.
That's
me. Bring it.
Yeah. But I think this is also the time when she was still a judge on...
Oh, the X Factor?
Yeah. So,
Oh, probably.
So, that just drew people right into,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah. Angelica Ross of the TV series Pose and American Horror Story 1984 played Roxy in 2022.
Really?
Check this out. Making her the first trans woman to play a leading role on Broadway.
Really?
Happened to Roxy.
No.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
I would love to see that.
That would be a whole different
Right.
nuance.
And now it just happened again. The last couple of years with Some Like It Hot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, oh, we can do that now.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Well, and Juliet on Broadway does
Right.
so much.
Yeah.
And the new Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, yeah. Right.
The casting, the Friar and Tybalt.
Right. Yeah, I did see
Their
that.
gender cast, yeah.
Now, after this, the list starts to get a little weird.
I know.
While it wasn't a continuous thing that the rest of the names on this list set a trend, there were still actual Broadway performers who played Roxy between some of these names.
Yeah.
I think these are interesting ones to discuss. Lisa Rinna played Roxy
She was housewife number one.
in 2007, and by that time, Rinna was best known for her extensive television acting resume, most notably in soap operas.
Yes.
But since then, after 2007, she became a host for several shows, was also a celebrity guest on a lot of reality TV like RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yes.
But-
she is entertaining.
As you were alluding to, years after that, she might best be known for joining the show The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, often being referred to as one of the best housewives the series ever had, or the series of
Because
series.
she makes herself endearing by going,
Mm-hmm.
but she doesn't pull any punches, and she is not afraid to ingratiate herself
Mm-hmm.
and make light of her own situation
Oh,
and look
yeah.
at it and be go, that was dumb.
Yeah.
Kind of idea. She has no inhibitions,
Right.
and she has no fear.
Right. Yes. Which I think would make her an effective Roxy.
Yeah.
Incidentally, she played it opposite her husband, Harry Hamlin.
I
as
wondered.
Billy Flynn.
Yeah. Was he Billy?
He was Billy. Yeah, and the picture I have of it is just great when she's
The
being,
puppet.
Yeah, when she's being the puppet. Like, I can't tell who's controlling who.
Ooh, interesting.
It was very neat. Yeah. However, the real life drama seen on Housewives seemed to be a draw for a couple other stars to play Roxy. Erica Jane,
Yeah,
another
no.
housewife with some notoriety, got the part in January 2020 and was scheduled to play through March, but her tenure ended when COVID shut down Broadway.
Yep. Darn.
You don't like that call? Okay.
That is not one I would have made. No. I even got sucked into a little bit of social media because I was like, so I'm looking at Chicago and I'm following, and I see this and I went, I'm sorry, who? What?
Come on.
And then she's talking about all of her housewife co-stars
Oh,
coming,
they all came,
and I'm like,
okay.
I want to see a clip. Show me a clip. Prove it.
Yeah.
Kind of. That. I mean, that's
No,
the reaction.
It's just pictures.
Oh, I know.
It's just pictures.
I know.
I'm probably going to mispronounce this because I really don't care about reality TV. Ariana Madix,
Sure.
Madix
Sure.
of the Housewives spinoff Vanderpump Rules, played Roxy for 2 separate runs this year in 2024.
No.
I mean, she's
No.
cute.
No.
She's 39.
No. So. No.
Done. Oh, and all 3 of these reality stars also competed on Dancing with the Stars.
Well, yeah.
So, hey, they can move.
No, they can't. I've watched them. I would rather see Teresa Giudice, or however you say her name.
Yeah. Get up there and punch Velma in the head just off script.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Here's an interesting one. What seems to be something of an effort by Broadway to inspire a rags to riches story, Broadway.com hosted a contest called The Search for Roxy.
Yes, I saw this.
Which came out as a series of videos on their website. Contestants were judged by former Roxy's Anne Reinking, Bianca Marroquin, Paige Davis, Charlotte D'Amboise, and former Velma Kelly, Bebe Neuwirth.
Yeah.
The winner was Emma Pittman, who took the role for a few weeks in June 2022. She went on to be part of the ensemble for Back to the Future, the musical, and is currently in The Outsiders.
Yes. She is making a career. And I watched some of her stuff.
Yeah.
I watched, because a lot of it was posted socially, through social media. And she worked hard at trying to get the Fosse move
Yeah.
down.
I have a friend who's been on the show, Natalie Lander, who got to be on the MTV series
The Legally Blonde
Legally
one.
Blonde.
The
She
Search for
was-
Elwood.
She was number 6.
Oh, yeah.
But she saw it coming. She's like, I knew what was going to happen. They were going to get the
yeah.
girl from the heartland of America who was there for like 4 weeks. And they were like, okay, let's
She was not. What's really funny is that a lot of those runners up have amazing careers on Broadway.
I know.
Amazing careers on Broadway. And they were most of my favorites.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, saw that coming too.
All right, so Emma Pittman.
Emma.
Who did she replace on Broadway?
Pamela Anderson. I know. Yeah, Pam Anderson. That was like her big.
Well, it's like it's the kickoff of her comeback.
But her comeback now is like this whole natural thing.
Yeah, I think we talked about her last time
We
you were
did.
on the show.
We may have.
But still, I mean, she was just on Colbert the other night, and like very little makeup, and
She's not wearing anything.
Yeah,
like she is all
yeah.
like back to the whole like.
They're wrestling
Wow.
upstairs now.
I think they're practicing their jumps.
Must be.
Yes.
Must be. But anyway, Pam Anderson. Yeah, I mean,
It's the same Melanie Griffith kind
Yes.
of thing
yes.
because everybody. I don't care what generation knows.
Pamela
Everybody knows Pamela.
somehow.
Yes.
Right.
And you've got this fascination with like the 80s and 90s.
Oh yeah.
A huge resurgence.
Yeah.
Like it's this huge thing and she is
Yeah.
the late 80s, early 90s.
Right.
She just is.
Right.
And so.
But also
well,
a
yeah.
person who has been completely riddled with scandal
100%.
throughout her life.
Yeah.
Well,
When you marry Tommy Lee.
When you marry Tommy Lee and you accidentally have a sex tape leaked out of your home, and
Your boat.
your boat, and then did you see the series?
I didn't.
Oh God,
I actually didn't.
It's so good. It was so weird. It
Yeah.
was weird.
Wait.
But Sebastian Stan as Tommy,
I know.
was amazing.
I figured that. And Lily James.
Oh, she was so good.
She can
she
can do no wrong, let's be real.
Yeah.
She can be Cinderella, she can be Pam Anderson, and anything in between.
It ended up being kind of a tragedy.
Oh,
Like,
100%.
Yeah, you're just watching this woman who just wanted to be famous, and how she got famous was not the way she intended. And yeah.
But that is, if you look at the history of fame,
Yeah. Yes.
it is not a new story.
No.
Roxy's not a new story.
No.
Pamela's not a new story.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah,
It's not.
Here we are in election season. My son, again, 16, is fairly civically minded.
Mm-hmm.
He's very interested in like public policy and particularly like mental health for men and stuff like that. Like,
interesting.
He's very passionate about that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But we were at dinner the other night, and he goes, "I don't care who the Kardashians are voting for." We're in election season. I'm like, good.
Thank you.
But that's kind of where we are. It's like fame begets fame, and notoriety begets notoriety, and we still go, you know what? I wonder what they're doing. When many of us should just go, let's not.
Let's not.
Let's not.
Let's not.
It's really over.
Well, and that, yeah, I mean, fame for fame's sake, 15 seconds of fame, 15 minutes of fame, whatever.
Right.
It's...
Yeah, so Pam's there for like 2 months, and
I can hear, like, I've never even seen the clip, but I could totally hear her doing that breathy...
Oh, yeah. Well, her in her figure...
Yes!
That's a Roxie.
It's a Roxie.
It's an absolute Roxie.
100%.
But it's also one that, you know, when Renee Zellweger played it, a waifish, very slender, you look at Pam Anderson, you're like, well, no wonder you're famous.
Well, yeah, there's a reason for it.
Right.
But that sultriness often doesn't get to Roxie.
Right.
And I think that could be interesting. You know what I mean? It could be one of those things that you're like, well, that's a different vein.
So who's playing her right now?
Alyssa Milano.
Alyssa Milano. Milano made her Broadway debut earlier this year, replacing Ariana Madix. She began playing the role on September 16th and will play the part until November 10th, 2024. She is set to be replaced for a limited engagement by Bianca Marroquin.
Thanks, Bianca. We love you. We love you.
Well, I mean, there's another one where you're like, okay, you know, a child star. We grew up with her on Who's the Boss and everything, and then
controversy.
Did a little a couple controversial films in her 20s, and then now is like this outspoken advocate on.
Well, then, but she also does then a huge show that she's on, and there's controversy on that show, and then her co-star, co-star just died.
Yeah.
Along with that controversy. And then there's the political controversies that she has that's still couple even with some of her co-stars. And then and she's beloved and also demonized.
Yes. Yep.
Which is a draw.
Right.
I mean, we like polar opposites. We like extremes.
That's Roxie.
Yeah. She's an extreme.
Right.
So, but I would tend to argue, I get the Broadway company making these choices.
Yeah.
But I think if you really want a show about with Roxie and Velma, it's different.
Yep.
And that's hard. And I feel like that's where I struggle in it with it.
It's blurring the line.
Yeah.
You're saying that Roxie, who is this character, this fictional character, who is interested in fame and will do anything to get it, can easily be played by these women who
have walked a very similar path.
Right. So, yeah.
We're blurring the lines between entertainment and storytelling and reality.
So, yeah.
I don't know.
After Alyssa Milano and Bianca Marroquin, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? You said Paris Hilton earlier.
I
wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised.
No.
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think that's the route she's going after now, finally having children of her own, but you never know.
One that came to mind for me was Kesha.
Oh.
That would be a very interesting choice, and I demand some royalties if that's a choice that is made, because I put it out there first.
I'm putting Lady Gaga out.
Lady Gaga.
She would rock it.
That would be an amazing Roxie.
Can you imagine?
Hardly any scandal there.
No, but tragedy.
Yeah.
Like broken hearts and struggle and willing to do what is needed for fame.
Right.
In some ways.
Right.
But it also would be like, oh, Katy Perry needs a break from American Idol. But I could see that happening.
I could too.
And if you look at like modern young actresses, I could see some of them wanting to step in and wetting their feet, so to speak, in Broadway, because it's kind of become this availability. And there's a part of me that's like, you guys got to stay away from those young actresses who are trying to wet their feet.
Right.
This is not a time for a Sydney Sweeney.
Nope.
Give her 10 years.
Maybe.
She's
had some controversy. A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. I do love that story about how she and Glenn Howell, what's his name? Oh, yeah. Glenn Powell.
Powell.
God.
Yeah. You were thinking Mr. Howell from...
I was.
No, I'm just kidding.
But how they both fought for that Much Ado About Nothing adaptation to be shown in theaters.
Which was so smart.
Yeah.
I sat there going into that movie not knowing and went, oh my gosh, it's Much Ado and I love this!
You're Ben and B.
It's like...
Yeah.
It made it so much better. And I think that's a smart choice, but there's young actors and ways of approaching things. They gotta,
I could see a Jennifer Lawrence sometime soon.
Ooh, interesting. Interesting.
And Emma Stone was just in Cabaret.
Yeah.
So, that would
And
be...
she did a great job,
Yeah.
I heard,
Yeah.
with Eddie Redmayne. But, I can never say her name right. The girl who did Moana is now in Cabaret.
We're going to be canceled.
Yep, we are. So that's why I wasn't going to say it.
The star of Moana.
Yes.
That would be interesting. Yeah. And you've still got a lot of songstresses out there that would be amazing in some capacity. I mean, we had Brandy. We had Michelle T. Williams,
Why can't we have,
Don't give me Fergie.
No. Too much. She's gone. She's like,
Okay.
I don't think she can make it back, to be honest.
Not after that All-Star game for the NBA.
Nope. That was rough. That was not okay.
But yeah, it does seem that the way to keep this still going is, like, most of the other musicals on Broadway right now that have some longevity are not going the trick of let's get a big name star.
Yeah.
Hamilton is just let's get
get
people.
people.
In. Let's Book of Mormon. Let's get people. Wicked. Let's just get people.
But Wicked's starting to make some people too.
Yes.
And push them on, which I think is really fun. I think there's some great opportunity for new talent to be able to cut their teeth on something that is actually something you can cut your teeth on.
Right. But Chicago, again, like, you got to get the Fosse. You're going to get the Fosse. It's obvious. But like Melanie Griffith, you got to make up for it in another way. So, I don't know. I think it's just a very interesting phenomenon that is what has developed
Yeah.
with Chicago. And it's not just Roxy. Like, Major
they'll
Mama
bring it-
Morton,
yeah.
Jinx Monsoon was Major,
Yeah.
was Mama for
They
a long
bring
time.
people in for both Billy
Yep.
and Velma
Velma.
and everything. Yeah, it's been...
Oh, and Mary Sunshine. And this was something funny that I read, and I'll probably finish with this. In the original production, they listed the actor's name as their first initial and their last name. Now, when Orfeh played it was just Orfeh. But, but since then, it looks to me, in my very limited research on Mary Sunshine, that whoever played it, they just billed them as initial and last name.
Seriously? That's hilarious.
Isn't that weird?
But that's a nod to the fun, traditional just idiosyncrasies that you find in Broadway.
And that might just be it.
And on stage.
Maybe this is just the nuance of Chicago.
Yeah.
Your Roxy might be somebody you've heard of, might be somebody who's had a scandal. Regardless, you're going to have a fun time.
Yeah. Well, it's built for that. The show is built for that.
Yeah.
I think that's the nice part about it. If you have a strong Velma, you can play a little bit more with Roxy, and vice versa in some ways. If you have a different approach, they don't necessarily have to mesh.
Right.
They have to play off.
Right.
So you can do a little bit more.
No, yeah, it is definitely a water and oil situation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting to consider. It's been fun to re-examine some things because it's like, why? There's a question of why.
Why?
There is a reasoning, I think, behind it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with it.
No. But
And some of their choices.
you got to get butts and seats. That's all I know.
And they are.
Yeah, they have been.
And they are.
For 28 years.
Yeah.
Woof. Hey friends, this is your host Aaron Odom coming at you again. I want to thank you for listening to today's episode, and if you liked what you heard, please leave us a review wherever you pick this podcast up, or go ahead and like, share, subscribe, all the cool stuff you do with podcasts. We are Trident Theater, that's Theatre. You can find us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or at our website, www.tridenttheater.com. Once again, this is Aaron Odom, and we try to get a new episode out every 2 weeks, so hope to see you again in a fortnight.
Apocalypse, I said, why you wanna show up now? Just when the heart of my life was getting good. I'll give you one more chance. Walk on out of the door, yeah. Get your ass to getting where the getting is good.